How is everybody? Hopefully well.
Hi, everyone.
I see we have about 23 people, which is great. We're gonna hopefully, we had 100-something people register, and the goal today is to try and answer everybody's questions. So I'm here joined by, my name is Adeo. I'm joined by Mike Supervici. Mike.
Hi, everybody.
We'll introduce ourselves right now. Let's just give people a minute to dial in. And then what we're going to do is, as I said, introduce ourselves. Then I'll talk for a couple minutes about VC Lab. And then you can ask questions about VC Lab. You can ask questions about starting your own fund. You can ask them either on screen, or if you prefer, you can ask them in the chat. So one or the other. And this one is particularly designed for America and Asian time zones. So hopefully we'll have some great candidates from those various different jurisdictions. It's 2 minutes, so why don't we start introducing ourselves, and then we'll do VC Lab and then questions. So again, my name is Adeo Resi. Just by way of introduction, I've been an entrepreneur and investor working in the startup ecosystem, et cetera, for about 26 years. Half of that time I was building tech companies. The other half of the time I was working on the ecosystem and being more of an investor. I've had the fortune of creating a couple billion-dollar companies. I've also launched roughly 14 funds, plus helped with another number of other fund launches, and ran something called The Funded, which was a rating site for venture capitalists. So I know the venture capital industry inside and out, and been pretty active in it for the last 13 years. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you. My name is Mike Supervici. I am the head of acceleration here at VC Lab. Prior to this, I was managing the portfolio at Founder Institute, and I, together with Adeo, helped launch over 12 funds internally. At this point, I think just from the number of cohorts that we've worked with, I've worked with certainly hundreds of first-time GPs to kind of help them launch their funds. So happy to answer any sort of questions that you have, whether it's about your strategy, whether it's about VC Lab, or anything that you may have.
So you'll be working largely with Mike, myself, and then we have mentors come in every week to help you with different issues. So let me talk a little bit about the VC Lab program before we open it up to questions. We'll give time for a few more people to dial in. We're already cresting past 30. And as I said, we had 100-something people register. So VC Lab is an accelerator for venture capital firms. And we focus on early stage venture capital firms that are doing, in some cases, venture builders or accelerators. In some cases, they're doing angel funds. In some cases, they're doing pre-seed funds, seed funds, or Series A funds. And that's our primary focus. We've had a few growth stage funds come through, but primarily, venture builder, accelerator, pre-seed angel, seed, and Series A are our big focus. And I would say, we actually mapped this out. Most are, it's sort of a bell curve, with most being in the seed level and then the others being slightly less. But the average fund first fund that's coming into the program is $17.8 million. And the program is really an accelerant to a first close. So most GPs coming in, following the guidance of the program, the average time to getting to start the first close is about 5 months. And a close itself takes a little bit of time. So maybe it's like 6 or 6.5 months till money's in the bank, but the average time to starting the first close process and essentially getting that first close is, as I said, 5 months. Now, how do we accelerate the first close? So let me tell you about that and a couple other things about the program before we get started on questions. So because Mike and I and independently the mentors and all these people who are involved in the program have closed lots of funds, we kind of like know the sequencing of things to do. And a lot of new managers, myself included when I got started, do things out of order. So you like talk with your lawyer too early, and you pitch LPs too early, and you make a deck too early, and as a result of that, you just waste lots of time. And in fact, when we started out, we were like, yeah, we could probably get it down to about 9 months to a first close, and we actually got it down to 5 months. And most new managers not in VC Lab, it takes 12 to 18 to 24 months to get to a first close. And that's sort of your spectrum, 12, 18, 24. And like other things, it's also a bell curve. So most people are actually 18 months to the first close. So we came in thinking we could have it from 18 months to 9 months. And after we've run it now for 3 cohorts, and this will be the 4th cohort, we got the closing time down to 5 or 6 months, right? And because we've streamlined all the things that you do out of order, sequencing them for you, and then there's a couple other things that we do, right? So there's this program every week helping you do things in order to get to a first close, okay? And that is one of the biggest benefits of the program, but there are other benefits, okay? As we help you do these things in order, we bring in mentors every week, and they're mentors active in the community, which I'll talk about next. And those mentors are experts in whatever you're about to do, and they're going to give you advice on how to do it, and they'll answer questions for you on how to do it, and they're in the community helping you do it. So you have guidance from people who know exactly what you're doing at the time. Most of these people are also general partners in funds. Some of them are service providers that help in these areas, but most of them are general partners in funds, and they're good at whatever they're advising you to do. In addition then to these mentors, and of course the structure of the program, there's a community, and it is literally the most active community that I have ever seen. And in fact, many of the people that are applying, and we'll have a couple thousand people apply to this cohort 4, have been referrals from either graduates or dropouts of the program, because they were like, wow, this is such a powerful community, such a powerful experience. I want others to go through it and benefit from it. And the community is primarily on Slack. And there's channels to ask about pretty much anything. There are channels for funds in Europe, Africa, different regions of the world. There are channels about how to source deals. There are channels about legal. There's and they're very active. Everyone's sharing information. And, you're going to run into questions like, oh, what do I do? And you know what? There's a community right and willing. And Mike and I and the mentors and everyone's there trying to help you get to a first close and build a world-class fund. Now, as I mentioned, there are dropouts, right? And so look, couple things. Building a fund is not super easy, okay? I'm gonna be candid. It's probably one of the hardest things that you can do as a human being, especially a first-time fund. Right now, we're trying to simplify it, and we're going to make it as easy as humanly possible for you. Okay, we're going to take something that's like climb Mount Everest, and we're going to put you in a suit and give you a massage and help you walk up the mountain and Sherpa and all this stuff. But you're still climbing Mount Everest, right? So, we'll make it as easy as possible, but it's still pretty hard. And some people, either the program moves too quickly, or they're not making enough, or they get busy, or the pandemic, or whatever, and it's okay, right? If you can't keep pace with the program, if you can't, it's okay. We're no judgment, okay? That's okay. You come back. In fact, I would bet that already we're going to have 10% of the enrolling cohort, maybe even more, will be people that for one reason or another didn't make it through a previous cohort, didn't have the time, they didn't get the network built up, something happened, they got COVID, so many things, life is filled with things that happen, and they come back. That's okay, right? And we welcome you back, because we're here to help you build a great fund and build a great venture capital firm that's going to change the world, right? That's why we're doing it. We're doing it to help you change the world. So I could talk about a few other things, but I'd really rather answer your questions. So we can do a couple things. We can do questions in the chat, and we can do questions on camera. There's a bunch of questions in the chat.
Maybe we can start with the chat, Adeo, and then if people want to ask questions on camera, just raise your hand and I'll go ahead and look for you and see if we can I'll just ask you to unmute. First question here from Moaz: is a venture builder, does that equal venture studio? Yes, basically it's just a terminology that people use, same concept, but yes, that's essentially
accelerator, venture builder, venture studio are all kind of like somewhat similar and somewhat different models at the very earliest stage.
And part of the program, people, you will work through and figure out what's the right model for you, and there's definitely guidance on that as well. Really, really good question here from Bram Rhodes. What makes a good candidate for VC Lab? Do you prefer teams or are solo GPs? Okay, so there's two questions in there. So let's maybe start with the first one. What makes a good candidate for VC Lab? Maybe I could take a stab at it, and feel free to jump in.
But why don't I do the second one first? So yeah, we take solo GPs for sure. Look, if you're going to build an enduring venture capital firm, you can start as a solo GP, but eventually you're going to bring partners on. And then Mike, why don't you take the candidate piece?
Yeah, so look, we, as part of your application, we look for a video, and we definitely place a premium on that video, because in this world that we're in, you're going to be pitching LPs on video quite a lot. So put a lot of emphasis and try to make that, make that good. Then we look to see, like, does this person have, some sort of unique network, or is there, does this person have the ability to get into deals that other people's perhaps cannot, right? And so that's another thing that we look for, because limited partners are going to look for that, right? And so this is a closing program, right? This is a program that's designed to help you launch a fund and close money, right? This is not like a learning program; it's a closing program, right? So we look for folks that are in a good position to be able to put together, and make a great investment opportunity for a limited partner. So if you work backwards from there, it's like, does this person have unique access, or do they have a very unique thesis about how they're thinking about this, right? Is there something exceptional about them that would make somebody say, hey, I want this person to manage my money professionally, right?
Right. So let me just cut to the chase. Super simple. So as Mike said, there, in no particular order, we sort of look at all three things and we say, does it make sense? Okay. Do you have a network that can actually build a fund, either from LPs or companies to invest in, whatever? Do you have an interesting thesis? Okay. And are you working in an interesting geography? Now, some people are like rock stars and an amazing network, like superhuman. It's like pretty obvious. Some people like have this just great thesis, like, whoa, that's amazing. The companies should be funded. Some people are building funds in places that really need funds. And it's like, yeah, there should be a fund there. Oh my God, I can't believe there isn't a fund there. And it's not one, sometimes they have all three, sometimes it's one. So those are the kinds of things we're looking at. Okay, next question. Are you providing the fund to us directly? That I don't know what you mean by that, Cheyenne. Like the fund. So
Looks like
we
Cheyenne raised his hand. Maybe you can explain that since you raised your hand.
I guess I got my answer. You know, we are a startup studio and we have been investing in ideas and launch MVPs. We have been looking for some blind fund to expand our portfolio. I was wondering, is it something like a blind fund you give us as a VC that we can invest, or you just introduce us to LPs or others?
No. So what we do is we put you through a program, a programmatic way to raise capital super efficiently, right? Even if we gave you, let's say you're a startup studio, so you need to have probably $1.5 to $2 million a year in a Western developed country and less in a developing country, okay? And it could be more in a developed country, but I'm sorry, so median is like 1.5 to 2. All right. So even let's say I give you $500,000, that's not enough, right? You need to get another 1 to 1.5 million from somewhere else, and that $500,000 won't get you very far. So you're going to need to go through a process to raise the money. So we're focused on putting you through a process that if you follow, even if you don't have a network, even if you don't have a very good thesis right now, we will help you get the network, get the thesis, and close the fund. And if you don't believe me, I emailed everybody a video. You can watch people who will tell you exactly what happened. And they're like, I can believe I could raise a fund, and they have a fund now, right? So it's like, it's not super hard. I mean, it is hard. I'm not telling you it's not hard. It is definitely hard. So but it's not impossible, maybe the better way to say it. So it's hard, but not impossible. And then we're going to tell you how to do it and work with you to get it done. And to be very specific on the question you asked, there will be opportunities that we provide for you to meet investors, okay? And in your fund. And, you know, anywhere from, you know, a handful to maybe a dozen investors. But even with those introductions, and even if all of them invested, you'd still need more, right? And that's up to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I posted a couple of more questions. I guess you basically covered them. Just can I ask one more question?
Sure, of course.
In our model is to have a core team inside the startup studio that works across with different companies, right? For instance, not every startup needs a very senior architect or product strategy. Does this fund overall works that we can take some of the fund to pay these people who full-time work across the board as we spin off these companies or help them to grow? Does it work like that?
Well, kind of, right? There are different ways to fund startup studios. In fact, we have a whole startup studio channel on that active community that I was telling you about. So you can have a fund-based model, or you can have a company-based model for the startup studio. So it really, you know, what you're talking about with more managed services on behalf of the startups that you're ideating on is a more of a company-based startup studio model and less of a fund-based startup studio model. But, you know, I don't want to take too much time, but so there are two ways that I brought up. What I heard you tell me without going into more detail is more of a company-based way, where you set up a company, you take money into the company and you spin the things out from the entity. And we can, you know, talk more about it maybe at the end, but I'm guessing we're got a lot of questions. So if we have more time, I'll be happy to talk more about it. Of course, yeah, we're here to help. Okay, do you want to, Ryan has a question. Can you share an estimate on when we would hear if you're accepted from the program? Well, we're working on it. We got lots of applicants. We got hundreds of applicants. So you got to imagine hundreds of videos. And I'd say we've processed about 20% so far. So we're going to, as soon as we get, we're kind of doing it, we are doing it in order. You know, so I'll tell you how admissions works, okay? So we review your things in order and we fast score them. And then we do a second review with experienced venture capitalists, et cetera. And we look at the best fast scored people first. So, you know, if we can quickly look at your application and be like, okay, reasonable thesis, reasonable geography, decent video, kind of, you know, might get, we do 1 to 5 with no 3s, so 1, 2, 4, 5. So we review the 4s and we'll score it very quickly, 1, 2, 4, 5. And then the senior people start going through the 4s and 5s first. So we'll get to it no matter what. But, you know, if you put in a strong application with a strong video, you'll definitely be a 4 or 5 and you'll be processed first.
Interesting question from Lillian. How do I source for a VC Lab company founder? So a lot of the VC Lab participants
Co-founder.
Excuse me?
Co-founder, not company founder, co-founder. Sorry.
Well, a lot of VC Lab participants are looking for venture partners at all times. So we're working on creating a way to kind of manage that. So if you're interested in being a venture partner, definitely you can email, you know, VC at Founder Institute, and we can see your LinkedIn, and we can see if there's a match for now, but eventually we'll do more scalable things for you as well.
Right. So let me give you a little more elaborate answer on that. Okay. If you don't know the person okay, when you co-found a venture capital fund with a person or firm really and fund, you're going to be working with them for 10 years, guaranteed, right? Because the fund is at least 10 years old, most likely longer, right? Probably 12. So you're going to be working with them for like 12 years, guaranteed, right? So, and then if you do a second fund, you're at 15 years. Third fund, you're probably 20 years, okay? So you're looking at a 20-year relationship. So if you haven't known the person for 5 years really well, you should not co-found a fund with them, okay? At all. I would say 5 years is sort of on the inside. It should probably be more, but maybe let's say you work with someone really closely for 2 years, every day in the same office, like joined at the hip, traveling the world, maybe 3 years, more likely, but again, 5 years is sort of what I would say. So what you do instead, if you don't know the person super well that you want to co-found a fund with, because you're going to work with them for 12 years, probably on the minimum, and 20 years most likely, because most venture capital firms aren't really a firm until you get to fund 3. If you do 3 funds together, you're joined at the hip for 20 years, okay? So you test people by making them venture partners, which is what Mike was saying. So you make someone a venture partner first, which is like a consultant almost, and you build rapport with them over 1 fund or maybe 2 funds, and then you bring them on as a partner and eventually possibly as a managing partner or managing director. Okay, let's keep going. Is there a minimum recommended seed capital amount to build a well of diversified portfolio investments? You know, no. And you know, look, there are people on this call from Asia, Europe, less likely Europe, most likely Asia, definitely America, but all around the world, okay? South America, everywhere, okay? The fund size and your portfolio diversification. We're going to walk you through all this and how to size the fund, how to think about portfolio diversification. So I don't want to like over answer something we're going to go through, but I'll give you, let's talk about like a little bit of a fund size like trick, okay? And then I'm going to tell you, answer the diversification side. So, and this is in our pre-curriculum, okay? It's also in the main curriculum. But look, think about how much money you could raise in 2 or 3 weeks with the network that you have, realistically, right? Multiply that by 10. If you have multiple partners, add it up, multiply that by 10. 2 to 3 weeks, realistically, don't bullshit yourself and be like, oh, I could raise, I don't know, like 50 million. Like, if that's not really true, be with the true number and multiply that by 10, and that's your fund size. So if you're like, yeah, I know some people, I could ask them to probably give me $500,000, your fund size should be 5 million. If you're like, yeah, I know some people, they give me $1 million, your fund size should be $10 million. So that's how you size your first fund. Now you will do multiple funds because you are a venture capital firm, and your first fund is always your smallest fund. So it's okay if it's not that big. Then you need to figure out diversification based on your realistic fund size. So if you can only raise a $5 million fund, you don't really, your minimum diversification should be about 10 deals. If you can't get to 10 deals, that's a problem, right? So 10 deals is sort of your minimum diversification level. You probably want to go a little bit higher. And if you could have a spray and pray strategy and get up to, let's say, 50 deals, but most funds that are tightly managed are in the 10 to 20 deal range. Spray and pray funds can get up to as many as 50 deals, right? So, and spray and pray is sort of an industry term. If you go back and you say, okay, I can raise this much money and I need to have this much diversity, 10 or more, you can start figuring out fund size. And we'll go into this in much more detail during the program, so I don't want to over answer either. Okay, a couple questions from Ed. On average, what's the size of the funds you've worked with in past cohorts? Average fund size, $17.8 million. How does Founder Institute get a return on this initiative? Well, you know, we take money, we set it on fire, and then we hope that the smoke will make us high. No, we don't make money on it right now. So so,
but there are benefits, obviously, to the network, right? If we create more venture capitalists, we create all these companies, they're going to have more access and things like that in the future, right? So there's definitely benefit to the Founder Institute potentially.
Yes, yes. Look, to some extent, we are creating what we're calling a fund in the box service, where we basically will help you create a fund in a box, if you will. So it's kind of easy. So it's like one click, create the fund. We're going to offer that to more. We offered it to 10 people in the last cohort. It's going very well. We're going to offer it to more people in this cohort. And that is a break-even business right now. And then we have some upside if you're successful. So that's how the long-term VC lab will succeed. If we help you create successful venture capital firms, and we help you create those entities very easily, then your success and our success are aligned, and we can see some upside. And that will be available for a subset of the funds that come out in this current cohort 4. And so we graduated roughly 55 general partners, and we worked with roughly 10 in the first cohort. So we might double, maybe triple, probably double that in the number of funds that we help set up in this second cohort. And what we're trying to do is create a like white glove concierge service to make it super easy to launch your fund, so you can focus on deal flow, which is where the real value is. And we can talk more about that if people ask. But this is not really designed to make tons of money. It's designed to make the world a better place. Okay, we're a husband and wife team with previous investment experience and other relevant experience. Would our personal connection be considered a plus or a risk? Well, we had a husband and wife team break up in the last cohort. They didn't get divorced, but the husband, they were also successful investors. The husband was invested in some angel stuff that was started to go through a SPAC process. So the husband sort of broke off of the fund, and then the wife didn't want to do it alone. Now, I'm hoping the wife will come back this cohort because she was amazing and I was very impressed with her abilities. So hopefully she'll join us and do the fund without her husband. So yeah, there's going to be risks. We'll talk with you and work with you on how to manage those risks. And we've actually built template agreements for the management company, the GP, and the LP that deal with those risks. But at the end of the day, if the LPs, despite our counseling, the agreements and all this, aren't comfortable with it, then they're just not going to invest. That's going to be a problem. So far, we've been able to manage through those risks with the funds, but every circumstance is different. Do you want to?
Yeah, I agree. So we have a few right now that are getting close to closing, right? And so it's definitely possible. It's just again, there's going to be a subset of investors that are not going to be comfortable with that. That doesn't mean
he was asking about the rolling funds, if raising a first-time fund would still apply to VC lab program. So look, rolling funds, for everyone who doesn't know, is a product by AngelList, and you subscribe as an LP to an angel, and you say, I'm going to give this angel $10,000 a year or whatever the number is. And that angel gets that money and can make investments, okay? We do not work with people who want to do that, because that is a dilettante or part-time investor and we work with people who want to build venture capital firms. If you want to listen, more investors are good for the world. We want more investors in the world. Great. What we're doing is helping you to build a long-lasting venture capital firm that will change the world. If you want to be a part-time angel investor, or a dilettante or anything, not build a meaningful, lasting venture capital firm, that is great. AngelList is an amazing place to do that. But that's not what we're doing, right? We're gonna build the future of venture capital with you as eventually, maybe not to begin with, but eventually you're going to be a full-time venture capitalist. If that's not what you want to do, if you don't want to build, then you may not, maybe you build a venture capital firm, but you're not full-time, that's okay. But the firm is what we're looking to build, real venture capital firms that are going to be around for hopefully decades. And if you want to, experiment with angel investing, level up your angel investing, be more of an angel investor, great, but that's not what we're here to help you with, okay? So just FYI. Adeo, you mentioned Fund 3. How big is Fund 1, 2, and 3 in average in terms of millions of dollars? Well, we've only been around for a year, so we know what Fund 1 is. It's the average of $17.8 million. I can't tell you what fund 2 is or fund 3, but what traditionally you see is the global pitch book data, which is heavily weighted in the US, is the 25 million for fund 1. We're at 17.8 million because we've blown away the international numbers of pitch book. We are more international. We are opening venture capital to the rest of the world. All right. So it makes sense that our fund size is a little lower than when you look at the most. Today, about 50% of all venture capital firms are in the United States. Only about a third of our firms are in North America, which includes Canada, the US, and Mexico. So we're totally moving venture into the global ecosystem. And as a result, the fund size will be slightly smaller because if you're in Africa or you're in Central Asia or wherever, your fund size won't be the same as in America. Now, traditionally, if your first fund size is, let's say, 25 million to use a round number, your second fund will be larger, and not a little larger, usually like double, like 50 million. And sometimes your third fund size will be triple your second fund size at 150. We've seen that in funds that we've helped start, like Golden Gate Ventures, Kajora Ventures, and many others. Okay, so fund 1 may double to fund 2, and then fund 2 may triple to fund 3. Now, sometimes fund 2 doubles to fund 3, or fund 3, maybe you find a sweet spot of fund size. So fund 2 and fund 3 are the same size, but normally it's like a pretty big growth trajectory between fund 1, fund 2, and fund 3. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. You want to go?
Scott's had his hand up for like a little while, so maybe, you know, if you could unmute. I see you also asked some questions in the chat. Maybe it's easier if you just unmute.
Sure. So thanks. Yeah, I guess 2 questions. One is we're heading to our first close second week of August. Are we too late to really get the most out of the program? And then second, what are the economics of the program? I've seen there's
it's going to cost you like a lot, man. No, it's free.
The lawyers already charged us all our money, so we're dry there. But no,
program is free.
It's free. There's no
free-ster.
Part of
it's not freemium. It's not free-ish. It's not free plus. It's free. Now, there are some things we charge for, but you don't have to do it. In fact, if you want one-on-one office hours with me and Mike every week, we ask you to pay some money. So there's some things we say, like, just because it's like, I don't want to do office hours of the whole program because it's a lot of people pain in the ass. So if you want to meet with us one-on-one, you got to pay. But the program's free. It's awesome. The free experience is awesome. We don't expect anyone to pay. You don't need to pay. So free. Now, in terms of where you are on your first close, I think you are going to find your first close very eye-opening. You know, only because we are working with so many people on their first close, like hand in hand in the trenches. It is very eye-opening. And so we have worked. In fact, we have a number of funds in the cohort that just finished like 2 weeks ago that were in your same position, and they really used the fund for their second close, right? So they had completed a first close and they used our program to do a second close, which sounds like maybe your case. And if you want, I'd be happy to talk with you about first close logistics, but it's a special.
Yeah.
You know, with your lawyer thing, lawyers are so
our lawyer's actually fine. I just kind of, as a throwaway statement. You mentioned
they're not cheap.
They're not cheap. Nothing's cheap in this world. You mentioned Kajora and Golden Gate. I guess we know that I'm in Southeast Asia. So Golden Gate, I guess, has been around since 2012 or 13. You said you worked with them on their was it on their first fund or on their growth
Yeah,
fund? They're raising now?
they Jeffrey Payne and what's his name, Vinny Laurier were founded. We helped them found their fund.
Okay. Okay. But that was, I guess, before
Not
the
VC
official
Lab.
program.
This
Not
was
a VC
Founder
Lab.
Institute.
It was not
They
part
were
of it.
through
Oh,
the
okay.
Founder Institute and VC Lab are like, now we're different companies, but we were the exact same company forever, for the last year at least. And but back then we helped, and Kajora's Andy Zane, he started it out of the Founder Institute with my help, and same with Jeffrey Payne and Vinny. Same thing.
Okay. And since I'm hogging the stage here, my partner, so we're 2 GP fund.
Yeah.
My partner probably wouldn't participate in the program. Is that normal that
I
one
would
partner
strongly
participates?
recommend you have them participate in the program. Okay. So here's what's gonna get. All right. This is a very good question, by the way. Okay. So you are going to be, where are you forming? Singapore?
Yeah.
All right, that's joy. You're gonna have a lot of fun there. Woo! Singapore is not the easiest place to form. Or domicile, as another way of phrasing. Okay. So the program is gonna put you guys through the paces a little bit. And it's going to test your working relationship. And I can tell you that one of two things happens with the VC Lab program. Either the partnership grows really strong because you're like working together, like, making stuff happen, and you come out and like, bam, before we were friends and now we're even better. We're like partners crushing it. Or it will just tear you apart and you'll be like, God, I can't work with this person. They suck. Right? And we've seen it go both ways. Okay. And you're going to be working with this person for 12 years minimum. In Asia, early stage, might even be longer, 15 years. Right? So might as well stress test the relationship early rather than 1 or 2 years in. We're unwinding it after a complex formation in Singapore that cost you $250,000. You know, like you're like, God, now I have to unwind it. It's going to cost me another $250,000. Like, might as well stress test it now. That's my advice, but it's worth the paper it's written on.
Aside
it's not
from
even
that,
on paper. Okay, yeah.
Aside from that, do you ever have it in the case where one GP is in the program and the other one?
Strongly recommend.
Yeah,
that you both go
strongly
through it.
recommend it. There's a question in the chat here. What support do you provide with regards to building the operational tech stack for a firm? This is from Bram. The program is designed to help you get to a first closing, right? And so, we had a mentor come in and said, like, think of your first close as kind of like AD and BC, right? Before the first close, you're just the person with the deck, right? After the first close, you have a fund, right? And it gets a little bit easier. And so we're primarily focused on the previous part, right? So the program itself is designed to help you get all the materials and all these other things ready so that you can perform a first closing. After you perform, or during the time you perform a first closing, as Adeo mentioned, we are working on a suite of products to basically kind of help you, manage your firm more effectively. But that's again for a subset of folks that
yeah, so we have a tool set that you can use, and it's in development, and Mike and I were like arguing about it before the call. We're like, it could be better. So it's really, really, really good at a few things that are super, super hard for GPs to do. And we're looking to always improve it, and we're like constantly tweaking it. And so my hope is that for your cohort, we will have 3 things. And I'm going to get there one way or another. if I have to run through a wall, build it myself, tape it together, whatever. So I want to have 3 things for this cohort that are kind of hard to find in the world. 1, a decent CRM. Now, there are lots of decent CRMs out there, but they're not. The funds have really peculiar CRM needs. You got deal flow CRM, but you got LP CRM, and there's like, funds have really peculiar CRM needs. And like most CRMs are like okay at some needs, but don't meet others. So a fund CRM is a unique thing, and I'd like to have that for everyone in the cohort. The second thing is sort of a workflow management system. Again, funds have really weird, complicated workflows that are a bitch. Like, I got to get a report from a company, send it to an accountant, have the accountant send it back to me, review it, send it to the LPs, and then, all these steps and checks and this and that. And, it's a tedious thing to do. And so we want to make those work. And there are tons of those tedious workflows. And we want to kind of take those tedious workflows and reduce the time you spend on them with a tool. And the third and final thing is there's some basic fund accounting stuff that, again, you can get with a back office provider, and the different tools provide pieces of it. Like Carta has some fund accounting stuff, and this person has some funding accounting stuff, but like it's, you normally don't get accounting, workflow, and CRM in one tool. It's like, I can get an accounting tool, I can get a CRM tool, I can kind of get a workflow tool, and they're not really, so we want to do, those are the 3 things I would like to have for your cohort out of the box that's, just purpose-built for venture capital funds. Bram is also asking, I assume the cohort will consist of people at different stages. Does the cohort go through the program lockstep? Listen, this is something we deal at the Founder Institute with founders, and it's the same with venture. They're like, no, I'm way further along, man. I have my MVP. My MVP is done. And they're like, first of all, your MVP is not done. That's terrible. And the fact that you think that you're further along than someone who's like figured out their business model, like you're further along by like a month, so everybody is roughly in the beginning. We're talking about a 12-year fund life, and the difference between people entering in is a few weeks or months, okay, on 12 years. So yes, people are at rough different stages. So let's say you feel your investment thesis is great, and someone else is still working on their investment thesis. We spend about a month on investment thesis. If your investment thesis is great, the first month of the program is going to be wicked easy for you, right? Because you're like, it's done, boom. But let me tell you what actually my experience is. When you put your investment thesis through our investment thesis validation, you'll be like, oh crap, it's not that great. And you'll fix it. But you'll still have an easier time than someone who really has no firm investment thesis yet, because you're a little bit further along, right? So even though the program, people are coming in at sort of different levels, the program helps you take something you've already done and improve it, even if you're further along. And again, in the whole scheme of things, in a 12-year fund, most people who are quote unquote further along are not that much further along. And I'll bring up the example earlier with Scott, who's doing a first close right now. We've had people who've done their first close, and they will come, there'll be references for the program, the Nightscape Ventures. they've gone through a second close using the program to refine their thesis, improve their deck, and get to bigger and better LPs. Okay.
There's a good question here from Daniel. Like, if I don't have a co-founder, is that bad? As I've had experience with the Slacker co-founder in the past. It's not. It's like you said. It's actually better than for you to work with somebody that is not pulling their weight. And by the way, unlike a startup, with like Adeo said, with a fund, it's much more difficult to unwind that. It's like literally like a 12-year relationship, right? So. But start off solo then if you don't have a good partner that you've known for a very, very long time that's just as committed to this as you.
And was I a Slacker co-founder? Just kidding. All right. Okay, a couple other great questions here. Okay, Mike and it from Dan, and then there's a hand up, so we want to get to some hands as well. If you have other questions, you want to raise your hand, come in chat, come on hand, come on screen, whatever.
There's a good one here from Adam, right? Is it important to have geography as a criteria in your investment thesis? We want to invest in specific interest rates globally. I noticed that your application asks for geography focus. I wanted to clarify this.
Yes, I mean, guys, look, okay, so there's, okay. So I'm a little riled up because Mike and I were debating product before this, and so got me excited. I love debating product. Okay, you are going to invest in companies. Like, I'm investing in India, Iran, North Korea, and China. Said no one ever. Okay. So you're going to invest in companies maybe in one country and possibly another country, maybe, right? Because it's super complicated to invest in different jurisdictions, right? Now, let's leave the fact that it's super complicated to invest in other jurisdictions aside, right? Let's just say it was super easy to invest in other jurisdictions. LPs don't want to invest in you so we're dealing on the formation side with the tax so a lot of venture investing it thinks about taxes, okay? And a lot of places you domicile your fund are chosen for their tax benefits, right? Now, if you're in like Malaysia, domiciled in Singapore, investing in all these areas, you're passing tax consequences to your limited partners, right? And they don't want, many people don't want to invest in the US. They don't want to touch a US fund. Other people don't want to touch a Cayman fund. They don't want to invest in Mexican company. So to some extent, you're balancing where is it practical for you to invest and where do your LPs want to put their money, right? There's that. So you got two sides of the equation. And usually it's a very focused area, right? It's not 20 countries. It's not the entire world. Because if you go to LP and be like, I'm investing in the entire world, they'll be like, are you investing in the US? Yes, well, I'm out. I don't want to invest in the US. It's like, oh, okay, I want to invest in the US. Okay, are you investing in China? Well, yes. I don't want to invest in China. I'm out. Okay, well, I'm not investing in China. So essentially, like, you've got to balance where your money wants to go and where you can practically invest and figure that out. And we're going to help you do that, right? And that's part of our thesis That's why the thesis validation I talked about before takes about a month, because you're test pitching your thesis with LPs, you're looking at deal flow, you're kind of beginning to level set where your LPs want, where you have deals, and you're like, okay, I can do this, and then you lock your thesis and you pick your final geography. But geography is super important. Okay.
Looks like Moz has a question. You've had your hand up for a little while. Maybe we can you can unmute if you still have a question.
Yeah, sure thing. And thanks very much, Mike and Adeo. I'll cut to the question, which is, Raising capital versus deploying capital, it seems similar to a marketplace model. I mean, is there another short trick method that you say as to how to approach this, or does that happen during the validation process as to, you know, when funds are received in versus when they're deployed?
Well, okay, so you know, I would. This is. I mean, there's no like magic rabbit, like rabbit out the hat. Sadly, it is a little bit of a like, I got deals here. Do you like my deals? Like, you like my deals? Great. Like, then you gotta do the work, right? What deals can you get, and what LPs can you get, and you gotta try and match them, right? The best you can. And to some extent, we have a whole process. I can give you a short outline of it, but of course it's I just gave you the super short. The slightly longer version of it is you're going to have what we call friendlies, and we want to rename them because it's not a great name, but like these are people you know that might possibly invest in your fund. Right. So we call them friendlies because you know them, and they may not be friends, but maybe you forge friendships with them, but you know, they're friendly, and the ergo friendlies. And you're like, and you kind of bounce stuff off them. And essentially the way you do that is we give you sort of a modality of describing your thesis, and you can run it by them for feedback and then refine it, and we'll go back to them with a slightly refined one until it jives and they're like, that's great, I'm in. And then you're like, ooh, okay, that worked. Let me try it again. Ooh, it worked again. And then we start working with you to build out your materials based on the fact that you've got success and engagement with your message.
Perfect. Thanks very much for that.
I'm oversimplifying, but okay. Do you have another question?
And then moving forward, you will do a first close, deploy some of that capital. Hopefully those companies do really well, which then makes it easier for you to do the second close, and then you do the same thing, and then do the third close, and then boom, there's the whole fund, right? So that's how
that makes a lot of sense. And you
this is why you need to structure it in several closes, or ideally get it all at once, but most people take multiple closes.
Makes sense. And just a quick question on the application. If the first application is not accepted, is there an avenue to get feedback and then apply again in future?
You know, yeah, of course. And like, listen, we're going to try and get as many people as we can in the program. You know, just my advice on the application, guys, is just like, we have a pre-curriculum about thesis. So if you're like, I'm raising $100 million fund, and I've never done an angel investment, I don't know anyone rich, and I'm going to do it for angel investing, we're like, okay, that's not realistic. Right? You know, I can't help you. I'm like, I don't have the skills to help someone with no network and no nothing do $100 million fund for angel investing. Okay, I am unskilled in that regard. So as long as we have a pre-curriculum to help you level set reasonable things. And if your video is interesting or thoughtful, I mean, we're going to give you a shot because we want to help. Like, you know, we genuinely want to help, and we want to see you succeed, because the world, look, I'll tell you, like, Jason Calacanis is a good friend of mine, and I was saying to him the other day that, like, you know, California is really nice right now, and he wrote this kind of stupid joke back, well, until the wildfires come. And, you know, we went through a pandemic, basically like 10% of the land mass in California burned. Like, last year was a total shit show. And, you know, it's a shit show of our own making. And I'll tell you how we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it because people like you create funds and fund companies that create the innovations that stop the craziness that took us off this path that is unsustainable, right? That's how it's going to be fixed. So, you know, that's why we're doing what we're doing. If we can help you build the funds that fund the companies to fix the world, then great, right? That we need it. Like, and we need it now, like before the next batch of wildfires come or whatever. We need to be funding and building a better future. And I'll tell you, while I think a lot of the VCs in the past have done a lot of great for the world, they've also funded a lot of the crap that put us here, right? So that's why I'm not going to work with anyone that doesn't agree with the Mensarius Oath, because I mean, it's like common sense. It's like, don't shoot the messenger type stuff. Like, you know, it's like, be a good corporate citizen and treat people fairly and care about the planet. And if you agree with those things, we will stop at nothing to help you, because we want to fix the world, right? And hopefully we can all make money while doing it, right? There's no reason we should be poor and fix the world. We should fix the world and create prosperity that's thoughtful. So I'll leave it on that note. Mike,
last question. Is it possible for me to bring in my question, Adio?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I don't want to.
Final question, maybe. Yeah. Let's do the final question. All right. Go for it.
Thank you, Adio and Mike.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm based in Bangalore. My name is Vivek. I've had a corporate career in sales and business development for over 2 decades. Based on this call and feedback from my friends in India, it is almost impossible to kind of make a successful career in VC. So I would like to, bring in this viewpoint. I believe all of you people who've been in this industry are superheroes. I simply don't think at my age, 48, 49, that I can see a career of 12 years with so much of a, contribution from my side to make it successful. Do you still have, advice for me?
Bram said it best. It's never too late.
It's never too. We have people that are much older in the program that are doing really well.
Actually, we got a gentleman in Africa named Bade in West Africa. That's a tough place to launch a fund. He's one of the most successful. I don't know how old, in his 60s, I'm guessing, but I haven't asked. But just looking, making an educated guess, and he's launching his first fund. He's been a successful person for sure. He looks like he's closing. He's got, we counted today, he started about a week ago. He's got 11 signed LPs already. And he's been dripping out his signature. So, it's never too late. If you got the right thesis, if you care about the world, if you're going to make the world a better place, if Bade can do it, if all these people can do it, and I suggest the following, okay? Watch the video, because that I sent out. There are lots of people in that video, and maybe Mike, do you want to post the link to the YouTube in the chat? That was just like, I didn't think I could do it. They kind of came in the program with the same attitude you did. I don't know if I can do it. Maybe I'm too old. Maybe I'm too young. I don't have experience. All the excuses possible. And they did it. Okay. And they're like, damn, I did it. Like, it's awesome. And they're funding companies. Right. So, you can watch them on video. I was in shock. There was a Q&A session like this. People were asking the questions. I was like mediating. And here are the answers from them yourself, and you'll see. So you can do it. It can be done. We've seen it. We're here to help. And this was great, guys. Thank you so much for your time this evening for most of you, morning for others, and everything in between. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good rest of your day and night. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
This was awesome.